welcome to episode 115 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and today's the 7th of May. So welcome everybody. I hope you've all had a lovely crafty week since the last time I've spoken to you, and I'm here to share the things that I've been making in the last 7 days. So today I have some knitting, some crochet, some embroidery, some dressmaking, very inspired by the sewing bee. I have some confessions, which are a bit naughty. I have a blast from the past. I also have a gadget. I have some questions from the Ask Me Anything thread, which last week, for some reason, I just completely missed out, but I have an additional one, so I've got 3 to answer today. And I have some information on my shop update, which will be the 8th of May at 7 PM UK time. And you can find me on Instagram, Ravelry and Facebook as Craft House Magic. And I have my own website, which is crafthousemagik.co.uk, where you can find handmade project bags, hand-dyed yarns, stitch markers, higher knitting needles and accessories, as well as fabrics. I'm sticking to cottons at the moment, but who knows, I might expand. We have a couple of Makalongs going on in the Ravelry group. We have the What a Lot of Potical, which I'm hosting jointly with Becky from the Back to Blighty podcast. I'm doing the discussion thread over in my group, and then Becky's got the finished object thread over in hers, and we're knitting things from this lovely book, Harry Potter Knitting Magic, which there's so many lovely projects in. So if you are knitting from anything from that, do come and join us. We'd love to see what you've been making, and there's lots of lovely inspiration over in the groups, so do come and check it out even if you aren't started to knit it already. We also have the spring shawl along going on, and that's going on till June. Oh, I should say the Harry Potter cal is going on till June as well, the end of June. So the spring shawl along is right till the end of June, so you still have plenty of time to join in. It's just any shawl or scarf, crocheted or knitted, whatever you like. I'm quite open about my knit-alongs, to be honest, so do come and join me and just say, am I allowed? And I normally say yeah. It's all about sort of working together and messing around with crafty goodness and just enjoying ourselves, really. So do come and join in. And there will be some prizes that I'll draw from the discussion thread. You don't actually have to finish, so do come and join in. The more you chatter, the more likely you are to win something. So don't forget to come and join in with that. So let's get on with the good stuff. Let's get on with the knitting first. So, actually, I've been pretty monogamous with my knitting this week, weirdly. So the first thing I've got to show you is a finished object. I just whipped this up in a week, no. My mother-in-law Liz has knitted this up for me. So this is a project that I've had caked up for ages, and this is the Imagine When shawl by Locatelli. Isn't it lovely? It's in a beautiful teal colour, and the yarn I've had caked up actually for this project for absolutely ages. It is a Fyberspates Scrumptious space, which is a mixture between silk and superwash merino. And it's quite a thick yarn, so it's actually, it says 4-ply sport on the label, and it's a Fyberspates Scrumptious yarn, and it is 45% silk and 55% superwash merino, and it's in the teal colour. And I bought it on sale actually from a yarn shop in Norwich. It must have been a good 3 or 4 years ago, easily, might have been even longer. So the shawl is like an asymmetrical shape. It starts off really skinny one side and then goes really wide down this other end, and it's got some really lovely eyelets all the way across. Isn't that lovely? Really like that. So thank you so much, Liz, for doing that. It's keeping her occupied while we're stuck in the house. And I get to have a shawl. I will let Liz keep some of these, but obviously I need to show them to you first. It's quite a nice soft yarn, this, but I've noticed that it looks like it's starting to fluff up in places already, so I'm not sure whether it's going to be the most durable shawl, but it's still lovely anyway. So there we go, that's my finished object for this week. it does put the pressure off me to make sure that I have knitted on all of my projects. Actually, I've just been having a really nice relaxing knit on just a couple of projects really. So first of all, I've been working on my Stephen West shawl, and this is called the Jigshawl puzzle, and that's how far I've got so far. Isn't that fun? Lovely sort of asymmetric shapes forming the shawl. It's a lovely combination of like triangles and different shapes to form a giant triangle really. So I'll show you what the shawl is going to look like in the end. I'll have popped a picture up here hopefully so you'll be able to see it properly, but there is a schematic diagram on the pattern, which I know this is on the Ravelry pattern page, so I know I can show it to you. So I've done quite a lot of this area here, and I've just started to work on section 10, I think it is. Yeah, section 10. So once I've done section 10, actually I feel like I'm getting on towards halfway, so I'm getting there quite quickly really. So it's knitted in 4-ply yarn, but it's held double. And at the moment I'm just using 2 strands of the same colourways to produce these shapes here, but once I've sort of used all my colourways on their own, I'm going to think about combining them. So they're all my hand-dyed yarns in the Merino nylon base on the 4-ply. And this one is Lucky Star, so it's a pale pink with some grey speckles on. This one here is I Think We're Alone Now, with some bright pinks, corals and yellows in there. This one is Come On Eileen, and that's a tonal sort of greeny yellow. This one is Holding Out for a Hero, which I've also included in a little triangle at the bottom there. That little section. I have this one here, which is Rock Me Amadeus. I have Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, just there. And lastly I've got Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I'm thinking of using those 2 colours in another shawl together because I really like how they work. They've got some speckles in that are in common with both, so I thought that those would work nicely together, and it's nice and bright. So there we go. That's what I'm getting on so far. This is going to be pretty big because I'd say that this was just about 1 metre wide so far. So if we look at the diagram again, that is about halfway, so it's easily going to be 2 metres. And once you have the weight of it, I would have thought it'll stretch out a bit as well, so it's going to be so cosy. So that's what I've been knitting on. So that's pretty much all that I've been sort of knitting on this week, but I have picked up my corner to corner crochet blanket. So this is the crochet section now. So I've done quite a bit of it, although it doesn't look that much in the grand scheme of things because the rows are so giant. I'm attached here. It is quite a big triangle now that you can see, and actually if I go by the straight edge it's about 1 metre, or just over, actually it's over 1 metre long now. I'd say that that is about 1 metre, and that's quite a bit more than 1 metre, isn't it? So that's coming on quite nicely, and this is what I'm using. I'm using all my scraps to make this blanket. You could actually use it as a shawl, the shape it is, but I think I'm going to keep on carrying on and using up bits of yarn that I've got lying around. I'm trying to do sort of paler colours, and it's held double with an undyed skein of yarn as well to sort of tone it down so it all merges together. You can see here and here I did actually use, I had a whole skein of a lighter blue that I included, so I tried to split it up with some other bits included, but because the rows are so long now I think I can get away with a longer expanse of the same colour. This pale pink that I've got on the edge, I've just used up 20 grams, so you can see that you probably do about 2 and 3/4 rows with 20 grams at the size it is now. So it is eating yarn, but it is a good way to use up all my little scraps rather than just being wasted. Like literally anything that's like this big, I'm sticking in and using every little scrap. And obviously because it's a scrappy project, it's all sorts of yarn that I've got hanging around, and I use a lot of 4-ply, so that's an ideal way to use it. So the pattern that I'm using is from the Bella Coco tutorial, which I'll link in the down bar as well if you want to find that. It's a really useful tutorial as well, really easy to follow. So that's my crochet. I have some embroidery to show you. So I've been really busy doing lots and lots of French knots. So this is a beautiful kit that I got from the Stitchery, from Niki Franklin website. I'll link the website below. And it's a gorgeous tree pattern that you get a kit for. You get the fabric, you get the threads, and there's a sketch on the fabric for the tree shape, so you know where to start. And I'm absolutely loving it. It's not quite finished yet, but I got to the point where I think that I felt like I was looking at the tree for so long that I sort of lost my perspective of it. So I thought, well, I'll leave it for a bit and then come back to it when I can really think, right, where do I need to stitch now? So the trunk of the tree is stitched with some textured long stitches, and I've done a couple of French knots in there to be like knots in the tree. And then I've done some grass at the bottom with some random French knots, and then basically the main body of the leaves is all French knots as well, but there's 3 different colours there. But I just love the texture of that, and I love the way it looks, and I'm really pleased with it. I'm going to be getting a nice frame for it to go in so I can put it in the living room. I bought the kit specifically to go in the living room so that I knew, right, I'm making this to go there, because otherwise I make stuff and I think, well, what am I going to do with that now? Where's it going to go? But because I thought these sort of greens are sort of natural colours that will tone in nicely with our living room decor, I thought that would be really nice. You can see that I'm using my little needle keeper that I picked up from Chapel View Crafts, and I'll leave a link to her website in the down bar as well. But isn't that lovely? Such a pleasurable little sewing project to do. And you'll see later in my confessions, I'm going to be doing some more embroidery, so I'll tell you a bit about that in a bit. So hopefully that'll be finished next week, and you never know, I might have even got hold of a frame and I've actually framed it. I'm looking for a 6-inch frame, so hopefully I'll be able to get hold of one somewhere that'll go with my decor in my living room. I've also been doing some little hexies, but I haven't really got a lot to show you, so I will keep that till next time. So I have my dressmaking to show you next. So Barbara has kindly volunteered to come and show you what I've been making. Would you like to come over, Barbara? Thank you very much, Barbara. So Barbara is wearing my Indigo top by Tilly and the Buttons. So I've made one of these tops before, but with the sort of 3/4 length sleeve with the flouncy bit around the sleeve. I will actually show you the original in a minute that I've made. But Tilly and the Buttons released an add-on pack which included some short sleeves, and also there was a ruffle bit as well, that was a shorter ruffle, but I didn't really like the look of the ruffle on the sleeve bit, so I just stuck with the shorter sleeve panel which was in the add-on kit. And then also what was different in this one is that there's buttons on the back. So I've included some black buttons because I thought that they went with this fabric really nicely. I actually did add more buttons to what the pattern says. I think there was 4 on the original pattern piece, which was marked on the pattern pieces, but I thought because these hearts were quite little, I'll show you a bit closer of the fabric in a minute, because they were little, I wanted smaller buttons to tone in with those, and I think it looks a bit more delicate as well, rather than have bigger buttons that were more spaced apart. So I think that they look really nice. It took me absolutely ages to make this because I hand sewed all the buttons on as well. But it's a really nice shape. I love it's really flattering. It's higher at the front and longer at the back. It covers my bum. So it's a really nice pattern, so I wanted to have another go at it. So I think I basically stuck with the pattern pieces I used for the first time I'd sewed it. What I should have done actually is I meant to lower the darts a little bit to, because it looks better on me. If they're probably like half an inch lower than they are on this. And I did notice it on the first one I made, and then I completely forgot to change the pattern pieces. I don't think it looks bad. It would just look a little bit more professionally made if I had the darts perfect in the right position. But it still fits me nicely, so that's good. Again, I did the same with the facing around the neckline. I absolutely hate facing flapping around, so I just stitched it down. It's not the most professional thing to do, stitching facing down, but I like the look of it, and I'm happy to wear it then, and I haven't got to deal with trying to iron facing so that it doesn't sort of come out of the garment when you're wearing it or whatever. So I'm really pleased with that. I ended up using the overlocker for the most of the construction, and I did use a white overlock thread because I didn't have anything that was exactly this colour. I needed 4 obviously for the overlocker, so I stuck with the white so it didn't show through the fabric. And obviously when I've got on, you can't. When I've got it on, you can't see it inside the sleeves either. But I think that the shorter sleeve is probably a bit more practical for this top compared to the flouncy sleeve that comes to here, because you can obviously get a cardigan over it better. So especially for springtime, that's an ideal sort of design. So I think that's enough of this version. I shall show you the next one that I made. Wow, Barbara, that was quick. Before I show you this one properly, I wanted to show you this fabric a little bit more close up, so that there's little hearts printed all over, which I think is quite a nice little delicate print. And you can see the small little buttons that I've added to the back of the garment. If you actually look closely, I've actually top stitched the edge of the sort of button band at the back, so the inside has facing. I just wanted to make sure I stitched the interfacing in so that it didn't move. So that's how it looks. You can just about see the inside there, and the overlock stitches that I've done all the way around the facing to start with. But there we go. Let's go on to this next one. So this one is, again, it's the same pattern, but I did a variation on the original sleeves as well. I've done a 3/4 length sleeve. So in the original pattern there was an option for a full length sleeve and a shorter one with a flouncy 3/4 length bit, but I just wanted the straight sleeve, but just not to be quite a full length. It's a 3/4 instead. So I basically just, I think it was about 4 inches that I cut off the pattern piece from the long size so that I could get 3/4 length. But I basically just put the original one on and then just sort of measured down how long I wanted it to be compared to the shorter length from where the flounce started. So this one I decided not to put the button placket on the back because I thought it would be a bit lost with this kitten pattern all over it, or cat pattern. And I basically just stuck to the rest of the pattern pieces with the facing around the neck, top stitched down, because I knew that it fitted me nicely and I thought it was quite flattering with the flouncy bit at the front. So that's how that one looks. And I shall show you actually, Barbara will quickly change into the one I made before so you can see the flouncy sleeves and what they look like. Thank you, Barbara. So she's got the one with the flouncier sleeves on now. So this is the one I made a little while ago, but you can see the difference between this one and the two I've just made. So this is a close-up of the cat fabric. It's 2 directional, so you've got these Siamese cats, some going in one direction and some going in the other direction. But that print is all over. That's the back actually, so that's the front of the garment. But this, I think, is a polyester crepe, I'm not sure. But I bought it from Southampton Market. I don't normally buy polyester, so I'm not quite sure whether it is polyester or not, but it is a crepe, and it didn't press very well, so maybe it's viscose, maybe it's polyester, I'm not sure. I'll have to wear it and see whether I get too hot in it. I haven't worn it yet, so I shall let you know. I have actually got a third make in terms of dressmaking that I worked on at the weekend, and it wouldn't be the Craft House Magic podcast if I didn't have a new Frankie t-shirt. So Barbara, do you want to do the honours? Thank you, Barbara. So Barbara's got yet another Frankie t-shirt. So this is a Tilly in the Buttons pattern Frankie t-shirt, and again I do my normal thing where I've changed the neckline to the same shape neckline as the Agnes t-shirt, which is a Tilly in the Buttons pattern, but I used some fabric out of my stash, and this fabric I've had in my stash quite a few years. I picked it up from a really nice fabric shop in Chester, and if I can find the link to it I'll put it in the down bar from what it was called, because it was a little while since I've been. But obviously I don't think they'll have any of this left, because it was quite a long time ago. But because it's a drapey viscose jersey and a very thin one, I wanted to use a pattern that I knew skimmed all my lumps and bumps. So the Frankie t-shirt does that. So I thought I'd use that as a panel on the front, and then just to have a bit of a change I did some contrast sleeves there, picking out the pink, just so that it wasn't too busy all over it. But I'm really pleased I did try it. Actually, to begin with, when I cut it out I thought, oh no, should I really have just done the same pattern all over? But I am pleased I've done the contrast now. I think that'll look nice. I didn't have any thread that would match the pink to use on my overlocker, because obviously I need 4 reels, so I did a grey in the end, and I did that on both the hem and the sleeves and around the neck as well, and I think that worked quite nicely, because it kind of tones it all in together, and it also saves me spending another goodness knows how much on loads of different colours of overlock thread. Well, not overlock thread, this was the cover stitch machine to do the top stitching, but there we go. Barbara giving us a twirl. So that's what the back looks like. So that's another t-shirt for my wardrobe. I'm pretty much got most of my tops anyway are all handmade now, which is good. I wanted to just go back to this t-shirt. This fabric I picked up from Plush Addict, and I will leave a link to this. This is a viscose, which is nice and drapey, ideal for the indigo top as well. So I will leave a link to this fabric because I didn't buy it that long ago. But I'm really loving the indigo pattern, and I will probably make more. I'm sure there's many different combinations that I can play around with, and I was thinking actually creating a button placket on the front as well, just to create another variation, but it might be fun to have a go at. Thank you, Barbara. So now I have my confession. So, because I've now got a slight obsession with hexagons, I picked up a load of plastic templates so that I could cut out the fabric of different sizes really easily. Unfortunately, they only go down to 3/4 of an inch with the addition of the seam allowance, because I really like the 1/2 inch hexagons as well. So I'm hoping that I might be able to find somewhere that does a 1/2 inch hexagon plastic template like this one. But these are from, I think I picked them up from Amazon, and they're the make called So Easy. They feel quite nice quality. Haven't used them yet, obviously, but I think that they're going to be very useful because there's so many different sizes. But that's my first confession. I have another confession. So I was thinking I needed some really nice linen fabrics to do some embroidery on, and I was looking in my stash and I'd only really got cotton, so I thought I'd see if I can find on Etsy somewhere that sells different types of textured linens so that I can have a go of my stitching on there. So I picked up these 4 gorgeous linens from an Etsy shop, and they actually have a proper website as well. I found out when I got my order through. It's called Find Fabrics, and I think the website was called findfabrics.co.uk, but I will put a link in the down bar for them as well. So first of all, this is 100% linen. and it's called Roma, and it's got some really nice texture there, which I think that will complement some stitching really nicely. And these are fat quarters. I can't wait to start stitching on that. But I also saw that they got a mixture of cotton and linen as well, and these three are the cotton and linen mixes, and they're slightly tighter weave, denser weave. I got the white, which is, there is some texture in there compared to just a plain cotton. I got the sand, and you can see the content on there. It's written on a little label, which I find is very useful, because quite often I'll buy things and then I'll forget what they are in my stash. So that's the sand. And I also got the natural colour, which is also the cotton and linen mix, but that's a beautiful colour as well. But I think I'm now sorted. If I have the inspiration to do some hand stitching, embroidery, I've got plenty to be getting on with there. So like I say, I will put the links to both the purchases in the down bar as well. So we have the blast from the past next. I had a lovely viewer message me to ask me about this cushion, which I did a little while ago, so I thought I'd do it as a blast from the past to tell you a bit more about it. So this lovely little squares pattern is called the Battenberg pattern by Sandra Paul from the Cherry Heart podcast, and it's originally a blanket, but I decided that I really wanted to cover this little cushion because I just thought it'd make it look really cute, so that's what I did. So what I did is I basically made the squares so that it was big enough to cover the cushion, and then enough to be like a triangle either side, so it was a giant triangle like this, and then I folded up the pieces so that they overlapped on this centre part, and then I've added some buttons in the corners where they overlap, if you see what I mean. So if I just undo one, you can see there that there's just one row of squares that completely overlap, and they're just held together by buttons, so I can take it off the cushion pad to wash. But that was so much fun to make, and actually it's a great alternative to doing a big huge blanket, because they do take forever. But this, I just think, is a nice little project that you can feel like you're going to get and finish it relatively soon, rather than keep on crocheting forever on a blanket. So really pleased with that. These are all different minis that I had, I think, for in my advents. I think it was last year or the year before. I can't remember, one of those. But the buttons I got are mother of pearl ones that I picked up off eBay. They're just little tiny little small buttons, but they've got a little bit of a shine, which I think looks really nice. And then you've got the plain side on the other side without the buttons as well, if you wanted to choose that one. So if you've got any cushion pads lying around the house, you could cover them in some lovely crochet. So that's my blast from the past done. My next section is gadget. So I thought that I'd show you how useful I'm finding these stitch holders. So these are clover stitch holders used for knitting, and they basically just come off one side, and you can pull the stitches off whichever side. It's like a double pointed needle which has a bung at either end, so you can easily remove the needle to get your stitches free, and I've been finding them really useful just to hold my stitches on for my Stephen West shawl, my Jigshawl puzzle. Obviously it's only a short area that you can hold stitches for, because they're quite short ones, these ones, but they're really useful. I find them ideal for holding these shorter expanses of stitches that I need to keep on the needles ready to pick up later. I'll leave a link in the down bar if you want to pick up some for yourself. I got mine as a lovely gift from my friend Jean. Thank you, Jean. So I have the questions from the Ask Me Anything thread now. So Ask Me Anything thread is on Ravelry if you have any questions you want to ask me. Sometimes I answer them just on Ravelry, and others, if I think they're interesting to other people, I'll put them on the podcast as well. So first question is from Linda, who's Ergum Rice on Ravelry, and she asked me, would I like pets? And if I had pets, which ones would I have? So I would like pets. I really like cats. I'm definitely a cat lady, even though we haven't actually got any cats at the moment. We do have a cat who lives next door who comes to visit, so hashtag not my cat. I definitely will have cats at some point. I think it's just that I don't know, it's quite a lot of responsibility to have pets, and I think if you're wanted to go anywhere, you've got to have someone to look after them. So I haven't had any pets, plus Adam is slightly allergic to cats, so I'd be a bit worried about getting one and then having to give it to someone else because Adam can't cope with it, so we'll have to see. But I definitely am a big cat lover. The second question is from Gillian, who's IBKJ1 on Ravelry, and she was asking, was I tempted to take part in the sewing bee? Now, I am not actually that good at sewing, I don't think. I'm so slow. How they make things in like an hour and a half, I have got no idea. I take forever. Although I do think that it would be frustrating because I know that they don't finish their seams very well, and I think that I'd find it really just uncomfortable to make something without seams being finished properly. It would just stress me out. But besides the point, I'm way too slow to go on sewing bee, and I think it'd be way too stressful if you were there as well, with everyone around and being distracted. It's okay being in your sewing room, nice and quiet, no distractions. It'd just be way too stressful. So my third question is from Jo, who's So Can Jo on Instagram and Ravelry. And she was asking me, in terms of my Vertices Unite and my Jigshawl puzzle, is it more exciting to knit those sort of patterns than it is to knit a shawl which got very long rows? I think it really is. Stephen West is such a genius when it comes to pattern writing, because he always seems to think of ways to do patterns that are really, really interesting to knit. He keeps you gripped. It's like, next section, what have we got now? Really so much fun. All the patterns that I've knitted that are Stephen West, I've really, really enjoyed, and I'm going to knit many, many more. I'm hoping to get up, maybe this week or maybe next week, a video on all the shawls that I've knitted. It might be a long video, so I might have to split it into a few sections, so just have to see how that goes. But thank you all three of you for your questions. We have the shop update now, and that's it for today. So if you don't want to stick around for the shop update information, thank you for watching, and I shall see you later. But I have a new fabric to show you. So there we are. This is the medium-sized drawstring of my new fabric, and it's this gorgeous batik. Oh, I absolutely love this. You may recognise this because I actually used this fabric to make a bag for my Swift before now, but I thought it was finally time to release it into the shop. So this is a medium-sized drawstring. I do a zipped version, which looks basically the same, just with a zip over the top, and I have the choice of a smaller or a larger bag as well. So on the listings on the website, there is a little video that shows you the difference between the sizes if you need to have a better idea of what the difference is, and in the video you can see the yarn inside as well. So there's 3 cakes in there at the moment, just to give you an idea of the size. I've just put them in there so you can see what it looks like when it's got something in it. So the drawstring, when it's drawn in, looks like that, but obviously if you have the zip, it's very slightly bigger actually, because you haven't got the string to draw it in. But obviously with the drawstring you've got the option to turn the edges over to treat it more as a bucket. So all my bags have got boxed bottoms, which gives it plenty of room at the bottom to fit your yarn in. I am doing a little notions pouch to match like I normally do, a circular needle case, and I'll pop a link up here to the little video tutorial of how to use these. Basically you just pop your needles in there and wind the rest of the fabric around it and use the little bit of elastic to secure it around the button. I have some DPN cases and scissor cases as well, so you can have a whole set to match, which I love. I love having whole sets to match. Last but not least, I've got some progress keepers going in the shop. So I did have some coral versions of these a little while ago, but they sold out and I can't get any more of that colour at the moment. But I managed to pick up some of these pink ones, and I'm just selling them as progress keepers rather than stitch markers because they're quite large. But they're quite light. They're made of resin, so they're not terribly heavy. But I just thought they're absolutely gorgeous with the little flowers inside. So there are 3 options for the progress keeper. You can have this lever back clasp, the large lobster clasp, or the smaller lobster clasp, but they are purchased as a single item. But there's 3 there. There are slight variations in these because they are real flowers inside. One side is a brighter colour than the other one. But I think they're absolutely gorgeous. So there's a limited number of these going in the shop as well, and I could only get a certain number of them, so when they're gone I think they'll be sold out. So I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you on the next episode. Bye!